Hey everyone, welcome back to the Privacy Guy. Thanks for tuning in today. Today's video is going to be a little longer just because I have quite a few suggestions for anyone looking for ways to protect their privacy on the internet. I'm going to just go through the list from top to bottom, and then I'm going to actually put links to the timestamps. I'll add a comment with those timestamps in there, so if you're interested in just one of the methods to protect your privacy, you can skip ahead in the video and find what you're looking for. So basically what I want to do is just give you a rundown of the best ways to protect your privacy. You can choose to use a couple of these or all of them. It really just depends on what your level of comfort is with sharing certain information on the internet, and then also the level of seriousness, the level of effort that you want to put into protecting your privacy. So I guess I'll go ahead and jump into them. If you get anything out of this video, please like and leave a comment, because it helps me reach more people. It shows YouTube that people are engaging with the video, and it helps me spread privacy to more people around the internet. So with that being said, let's jump into it. So first of all, the first thing I recommend is using a password manager. There are a number of popular password managers out there: LastPass, KeePass, I think like 1Password. If you're using an iPhone or an Apple device, there's Keychain, which is the built-in password manager. Password managers are incredibly important, because if I just have one password that I use for all my services online, anytime that someone's able to access that password, they can access all my accounts. So if one account gets breached, well, all they have to do is try that same login on my email account, my banking account, my insurance, my investment accounts, my email, all that stuff. If someone has a password that you use everywhere, you're really putting your privacy at risk, and it's unnecessary, because password managers allow you to store passwords in an encrypted format, so that if someone stumbles across the storage file on your computer or wherever it's stored, they won't have access to your passwords. So it allows you to keep passwords secure, and it also, what people don't realize is password managers also can generate secure passwords for you. And so let's say I'm signing up for a new email account or a new social media account, and I need a password. Well, I could use my old password, which is my dog's name and 12, or I could just go to my password manager, click generate password, and then I get a long, complex password that, one, nobody's going to guess, and two, if someone tries to crack it with a computer, it's not going to work, because it's going to take them too many tries to crack a password that's 20 characters long or whatever it is. And then password managers allow you to use these complex passwords because you don't have to remember all your passwords. And I think that's kind of the main reason that people don't use strong passwords, is just because they're like, well, I can't remember them, so I'm just going to use this 1Password or this variation of a password or whatever, and then they end up compromising their data because one of their passwords gets included in some data breach, and then all of their passwords have been compromised. So then the second item on this list is really related to the first one. It's use strong passwords. When you have services that you use on the internet, the first line of defense to keep your information within that account private and secure is your password. So if you're using an easy password to guess, or one that people could possibly come into on Facebook or whatever because it's your boyfriend's name or something, you're putting your data at risk. So strong passwords are the first line of defense that you can use when signing up for things online. So it's essential. It's shouldn't be optional. The little slider that says if your password is weak, medium, strong, or super secure should always be super secure. Don't just throw an easy password in there because you think it doesn't matter. And then third, which is also kind of related, is enable two-factor authentication on your accounts. This is especially important in accounts with sensitive information, accounts with your financial information, accounts with your medical records. Enable two-factor authentication. And for those of you that don't know, two-factor authentication is when you go to log in. Let's say I type in my email address and my password. The two-factor authentication part is when I click sign in and then I'm texted a code that I have to enter, or I'm sent an email with a link that I have to click to get signed in. It's a second factor that you have to use to authenticate and prove to this service that it's actually you and not someone trying to just crack into your account. And the reason I think two-factor authentication is so important, and especially for your bank, important information, is because passwords, no matter how secure and strong they are often included in data breaches and are found in these databases that have been leaked on the internet. And if your password's compromised and you don't have two-factor authentication enabled, someone can just log into your account and they will have no problem doing that. All they have to do is type in your password and they're in. And then they can do whatever they want once they get into your account because you have no way of knowing that they're in there. So I know that most popular email services, popular social media platforms, they do have two-factor authentication as options. So if you're using Facebook, enable two-factor authentication. If you have an account at Bank of America, make sure two-factor authentication is set up. Google, your Gmail account, two-factor authentication. It's very important for protecting your information, and I think you'll be glad you did it when you realize that you haven't had your information stolen. So the next one that I recommend, this one isn't necessarily an online privacy thing, but I think it's an important step to take to preventing certain data breaches or hacks from affecting you because it kind of deems your information useless. And that advice is to freeze your credit. The benefit of freezing your credit is that if identity thieves or anyone accessed your data, tries to open a new credit card under your name or steal your information or steal your money, they're not going to be able to do so because your credit is frozen. So they can't open new accounts, they can't get a loan in your name or anything like that because your credit is essentially locked. And most people think, well, why would I want to freeze my credit? What if I need to get a car loan or something? Well, unfreezing your credit is super simple. You just log into the service that you use to manage your credit score and all that stuff and just unlock your credit. It takes literally just a few minutes. So that's just another tip that isn't often included in advice on what people should do to protect their information online. So I thought that I should just mention it. So freezing your credit can help minimize the damage that you incur if your accounts are hacked or people get a hold of your social security number or something like that. Next up, this one's kind of more technically advanced, and that's use an alternative domain name system, or DNS. Domain name services are basically what allow you to type in something like google.com and be taken to Google. Google.com is just the URL that you use, but the actual IP address of google.com is like a number. The domain name system is what allows you to type in Google and then it transmits that information to the IP address, takes you to the google.com that you're looking for. When you use the default DNS that you have, it's likely provided by your internet service provider or ISP. And basically this allows them to track and keep logs of the traffic that you route through your network. I know this one seems kind of advanced, but there are a number of different services that can make this process pretty simple. I just know that running your ISP's DNS can make your browsing slower. It allows your ISP to block certain content or sites that they don't think you should be able to go to. And it just puts your privacy at risk if you don't know what tracking they're doing through your DNS. So next up, use a VPN. I've made videos before discussing why VPNs kind of fall short in the privacy space, but VPNs can be valuable tools for protecting your information from your ISP. So if you're less familiar with how to change the DNS that your browser or computer uses, a VPN can be another way that you protect your browsing from like your ISP or from other people on your network if you're using a public Wi-Fi network. VPNs basically are an encrypted tunnel that all of your browsing will flow through. So just because you're browsing on a public Wi-Fi network, you won't be vulnerable to attacks from other people on the network who are snooping on the traffic flowing through that Wi-Fi network. VPNs aren't the best privacy tool out there because if you go to a certain site and you log into your account, that website can still track you. So it's more about protecting your information from other people on your network, your ISP, or maybe even like your school or work. VPNs can be a valuable tool for getting around certain content blocking and geo-restricted content. So if you're going to use a VPN, definitely do some research and make sure that your VPN is privacy friendly. I think there's quite a range when it comes to which VPNs are good and which VPNs are bad. So a little research can go a long way in making the decision of which VPN is the best for you. Next up, this one also is not necessarily internet based, but it can definitely help protect you in the event that you are hacked or just that you're doing something sensitive on the internet. So this step is just cover your webcam and protect your screen. So the webcam is if someone's able to install a software on your computer that turns on your webcam and allows them to monitor what you're doing, obviously that's a little creepy and I'd rather not have that happening. This is possible with certain types of phishing attacks or maybe you download something from the internet and you think it's one type of software and then you open it and it's not. Someone could potentially install software that allows them to hack into your webcam. So putting a piece of tape over your webcam, a Post-it note, just a folded piece of paper over the top of your laptop can go a long way in preventing someone from being able to stare at you all day if you did fall victim to one of these attacks. And then protecting your screen. This one is most important if you're working in a public space, like a coffee shop or maybe like a co-working space. But if you have something on your screen that you're typing in sensitive information or you're viewing your tax return, something that someone, maybe you wouldn't want someone to view, just protecting your screen, making sure there's no one behind you watching, or just trying not to view sensitive information in public because you never know if there's someone set up some weird spy rig camera to view your screen. Just kind of being aware of who's behind you and don't let someone stare over your shoulder at your bank account when you're in a coffee shop or something. So that's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I know they sell certain products or screen covers that kind of make it so you can only view your screen from straight on, and anybody else that views the screen from a different angle will only see black. So those can be good if you work in a public space and don't want people to view your screen. Next up is to use a privacy-friendly browser. I've talked about this on the channel quite a bit before, but the browsers that are most popular are not always the best for privacy, and that should be pretty obvious by now. But the fact that Google Chrome has such a massive market share of the browser space is an issue, because that means that Google is able to track you not only when you go to google.com and search for something, not only when you log into your Gmail account, but everything you do within your browser. So finding an alternative to Chrome can do a lot to just prevent Google from tracking your browsing behavior. Some browsers that I've recommended on here before are Firefox. You can use a stripped down version of Chromium. And even Safari is better than Chrome just because it's not provided by Google. So those are a few browsers to look into. Another thing I really love about privacy-friendly browsers is that many of them have built-in tracker protection. So if they see that a certain website's tracking your information or trying to put a cookie in your browser, you can block that. So sites won't be able to track you down. Sites won't be able to follow your browsing behavior from their site to other sites. Tracker blockers are super important, and privacy browsers often have them built in, which makes it super easy to use. Next up is use a private search engine. If you're using a private browser, that can help limit the tracking that you experience on different websites that you visit. But if you go back to Google and you type in a search in Google, Google's able to then track you on their own site. So I recommend using a private alternative to Google. There's tons of them out there. A lot of them are great. I know there's some not that great ones, but trying a new search engine is free. It's easy. And after you've tried a few, I think you'll probably land on one that kind of fits your needs and your preferences. The private search engines that I recommend most are DuckDuckGo. It's super easy to use. Its design is nice. It feels modern. The results are pretty good, and the privacy is top-notch. Start Page is great for someone who's still using Google but wants to switch to something private, because it uses Google results, but it strips out all the tracking and provides privacy-friendly results. And then there's a few other ones. Quant is a French search engine that does a good job of protecting people's privacy. Ecosia is a search engine. It's kind of a cool concept. They donate money or portions of their revenue to plant trees, and it also protects people's privacy. So it's a good choice. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones I missed. Like Swiss Cows is one. Yeah, I've made videos about private search engines before, so if you need some more choices, go check out those videos, and I'm sure we can find you a private search engine that fits your needs. And then next up, use ad and tracker blockers. That's ad blockers and tracker blockers. I think people often think that ads are kind of harmless, they're just annoying, but with Google's complex tracking abilities and their massive ad network, and a lot of other ad providers actually include tracking code in the ads themselves. So just viewing a site with ads on it can actually compromise your privacy and allow different websites to track you. So ad blockers, they speed up your browsing, they limit your data consumption, they just make your browsing experience better, so I definitely recommend them. Tracker blockers, kind of the same thing, but mostly they just look out for different ways that websites track you and take measures to prevent this tracking from happening. This is really important because as companies like Google and Facebook develop these huge networks of trackers, basically, they're able to know more and more about you. And then in the event that one of those companies gets hacked, they have all your information. So tracker blockers can help minimize this a little bit. And yeah, when your browser's not loading a bunch of tracking scripts in the background, your browsing is going to be faster. So ad and tracker blockers both are great for speeding up your browsing and for protecting your privacy. Next up is clear your cookies often. For those of you that don't know, cookies are little files that websites you visit will place in your browser, so that when you come back to a certain website, that website is going to be able to identify who you are and maybe what you've done on their site before, if you were logged into the site, all that kind of stuff. One of the biggest uses of cookies is actually with e-commerce. If you have items in your cart, the website may use cookies to keep those items in your cart next time you go back to the site. Without cookies, they can't do this or it's more difficult for them to do that if you're not logged in, because they don't have a way to identify you specifically. But cookies are just a way that websites track you, and tracker blockers and certain browser settings can actually prevent cookies from ever being placed in your browser, but sometimes they can be kind of convenient and make your browsing better. But if you want to kind of make it more difficult for websites to track you, clearing your cookies can actually be a great way to prevent these sites from tracking you. And it's pretty simple. With most leading browsers, all you have to do is just go into your settings or your history and just click clear cookies. So it's a quick little step, but it definitely can go a long way. Next up is use a private email service. And the reason I say this is Gmail has a huge market share, and many of the other leading internet or leading email providers aren't the best for privacy. Google, can track certain information from the emails you get and serve you ads within your email. And there's just simply better email services out there for privacy. I recommend services like Tutanota or StartMail or ProtonMail, and I know there's a few others, but these email services basically encrypt your emails so that if someone is able to, monitor your network behavior or get onto your computer or get onto someone else's computer and try to hack your email, it's encrypted so they can't see anything. This is especially important if you're sending important business emails that you don't want your competitors to see. Using a privacy-friendly email service can help eliminate some of that threat. So look into those and let me know if you have any questions. I'll be more than happy to answer them. Next up, this one's pretty simple. Just review the location data permissions that you've given different apps and websites. So I know that Apple or iOS has recently added a new feature where if a website or an app is trying to collect your information about your location or your email address or something like that, you can block the website from tracking that. But if you go into your location services settings or location tracking settings, you should probably just verify that you're not giving apps that you don't use anymore or apps that you would rather not track your location, just rather not give them that information. Don't give it to them. Some apps, it's kind of impossible to use them if you don't share your location. Things like Uber or certain maps apps probably won't work if you don't share your location. But just make sure that you're not sharing your location or other information with apps or websites that you're not familiar with. And then next up is just manage other app permissions. When you install apps on an iPhone or on a Android device or really on a computer or anything, there are certain permissions that these apps request that could be compromising your privacy. So a lot of companies will just simply ask for as much as possible as far as your data goes. And I know that this is kind of decreased as more privacy regulations pop up, but you should just verify that you're not allowing certain services online to collect your location, to collect your contact information, your device version, any number of things. But it's just best to kind of go through and double check that you're not sharing unnecessary location or information. Next up is encrypted messaging apps. I've recommended these a few times, but if you're using something like SMS text messages or something like Google Hangouts or Google Chat or whatever it is, your messages aren't going to be encrypted. So anyone, and including the service itself, could potentially view the contents of your messages, could hack into your account and view all of your conversations. But with privacy-friendly messaging apps, especially ones that use end-to-end encryption, you're going to be much better off. So I recommend people use apps like Signal. I think Signal is kind of top-notch here, so it's the only recommendation I'm going to give. But it's available on desktop devices, it's available on iOS devices, and it's available on Android devices. I think it's important for people to kind of realize, especially now with things blowing up that seem to be non-issues. If you're a public figure, it's probably even more important. But using an app like Signal can help protect your communications and prevent, certain issues that may arise if someone's able to access your text messages or chat messages. Next up, this one may seem kind of obvious, but just avoid public Wi-Fi networks if possible. Obviously, public Wi-Fi is a great convenience, and in many cases it's kind of essential. But when you connect to a non-secured internet or non-secured Wi-Fi network, you really don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know if someone sitting next to you is able to kind of execute a man-in-the-middle attack, so they're able to get between you and the connection to the internet so that any of your network activity they can view. And it's just kind of hard to tell if a public Wi-Fi network is safe or not, so the best way to protect your privacy is to just not use them. If you do have to use them and you have no other choice, maybe use a VPN if you have one. It could probably save you some trouble if someone were watching your behavior online. And then next up is secure all of your devices. This one should probably be pretty obvious to most of you, but with certain tips on how to protect your privacy on the internet, I've seen a lot of videos and a lot of information about how to protect your browsing on the internet when you're on your desktop computer. Use certain features, make sure certain settings are enabled. But at the end of the day, we're all on our phones a lot. Many of us are probably on our phones way more than any desktop computer. And so I think I just want to stress that if you're using an internet connected device, you need to take steps to protect your privacy. Just because your phone is not your computer doesn't mean that you're not vulnerable to certain privacy and security threats. So just run through your phone, make sure you don't have any sketchy apps installed. Maybe install a VPN on your phone to use if you have to connect to a public Wi-Fi network. Limit the permissions that certain apps have on your phone. Just take some steps to protect yourself on your mobile device as well as your desktop computer. And then, last but not least, this one's pretty simple, and I would hope you guys are doing this anyway, but the last step is just delete unused accounts. I know I've kind of struggled with this before, but I'll start a new social media account because some platform's blowing up and I want to get on it. So I create an account, and then a week later, nobody uses it anymore, but I still have an account sitting out there. Well, that means that I'm still under the influence of the terms of service and the privacy policy of the app or the service that I signed up for. And if a certain app has sketchy security settings or doesn't store their information well, someone could potentially hack into that business's servers and steal my information. So I recommend that people just, if you're not using an account anymore, go in and delete the account. It's just a quick little step that can save you some hassle and trouble down the line. That's all I got, guys. I appreciate you guys watching. If you made it 29 minutes in go ahead and subscribe because I know you love me. Just kidding. But I really appreciate you guys making it to the end. Thanks for watching this video. And go ahead and check in the comments for the timestamps if you're looking for a certain topic in here. And let me know if you have any questions or anything you think I missed, and I'll be more than happy to make another video and share some more tips with you guys. So thanks for watching, and see you guys soon.